Hi guys. So today we're going to talk about pricing. Pricing is a really important part of how you make your trade as a floral designer. And I'm going to go over the paperwork that I sent home with you first, and then we're going to talk about how important pricing is and appropriate pricing. We're going to talk about different pricing strategies, and we're going to talk about the connection between customer service and pricing. Anytime you talk about money, can be a very sensitive issue, but you can really use your sensitivity to those kinds of things to build some good communication with your clients, and it can help you figure out how best to help them and how best to make a decent profit for yourself. So there's like all of these different issues that come together around pricing. And so today's pricing lesson is really just going to be an introduction to pricing. Over the next few days, we'll have some different videos that'll actually show you how to do the work of pricing, do the math of pricing. But for today, we're just going to talk about some basic concepts, and I'm going to introduce you to the papers that I sent home to you. So let's look at the papers that I sent home with you first. Years ago, I went and took some floral design classes at the Floral Design Institute in northern Vermont. And I went for a week, and it was a full-time course, and it was really great. And one of the things I brought home with me that I've still used are these pricing sheets that I sent home to you. So with these pricing sheets, what you'll find as we look at them together is that some of them are a little outdated. So everything is more expensive than these sheets are because the prices are, 12 or 13 years old at this point. And the man who runs the school, his name is Ned, I kind of reached out to him and asked him if he would send us some updated ones. I did that a couple of years ago. He was excited to hear from me, and he said he would love to do that, and then he never sent them along. So the prices on these are not as updated as we might like, but we can still use them in order to do the same kind of practice about looking how markups work and stuff like that. So what you'll see is there should be two double-sided sheets. The first sheet is going to talk about a couple of the different pricing strategies that we use. That sheet looks like this. Over the course of the next few days, we'll go through all of these, but I just want to explain to you today what these are. Now the next three sides, these are all our pricing sheets. If you look at them, you'll see column A is the common name of the flower. Column B is the botanical name of the flower. And then the other columns show a whole bunch of numbers, different kinds of numbers. And so what we'll do is use these different columns in order to figure out how much things cost. So we'll look at those more closely. But I just wanted to give you a little quick overview of what these papers are, okay? So the thing I wanted to talk to you about, so you can see on the first sheet where it talks about the difference between price point design and concept design, is that price point design is when you're working with a customer who has a price in mind that they want to spend on a floral arrangement. And you get customers like that. You get customers who definitely know how much they want to spend. But the other way that this connects with customer service is a lot of times what happens is we get customers who call and they really don't know how much they want to spend. They want to spend enough to give a good gift or to buy something nice for themselves, but they don't understand flowers and they don't know how much things cost, so they don't really sometimes know how much they should spend. I've had a gentleman who wants to buy nice flowers for his wife for her birthday. And so sometimes a way to approach it with them, because a customer will call you and they'll have no idea what they want. No idea what they want, no idea what they want to spend. It's very common to hear them say, oh, I want something nice. Well, what does that mean? So it's useful to try to help them establish a price. I find that very useful. You don't want them to think that you're trying to charge them too much, and you don't want them to think that you think they're cheap. So in your conversation, you try to find some kind of middle ground about what works for them. So, for example, some people don't understand that $25, especially here in the greenhouse, can buy you really something nice. So sometimes you have to help the customer figure out what that price point is. They might not even know. But a price point customer is someone who already has a budget in mind. When we discuss price point pricing, that's going to be for a customer who has a number. $25, $50, $100. My budget for my wedding is $3,500. They have a price in mind. That's price point pricing. The second kind of pricing we'll discuss is called concept design pricing, which is they have an idea of what they want, and that's what they want. And the price itself isn't as important. They probably don't want to spend too much, and they probably don't want to spend too little, but what's really important is the materials. So you might have a client who wants just peonies or all pink flowers, or really likes the foxglove and the snapdragons and the light yellow roses that they saw in your cooler when they were in there the other day, or when they were in there that morning, and that's what they want in their arrangement. And so someone who has a concept or an idea in mind, you start with the design and then you price it later. So if you think about price point pricing, start with a dollar sign. Concept pricing, start with that light bulb over your head, that idea or that concept. So those are the first two types of pricing. The third type of pricing is something that we discussed in Hort 1 or People and Plants or whenever you first joined us here, and that's called community pricing. That's what we do here in the greenhouse. As a nonprofit and not a real business, we don't price our things that we sell to our community here at all this way. As we discuss these types of pricing that we're going to talk about, the price point and the concept design pricing, these are the things that a real retailer would do. There's the way they would price their items. But a real retailer has all kinds of other expenses that they have to fulfill, and they're trying to run a business and earn a living. So I'll have people that I'm working with from in the community, and they'll complain about the florist in Walpole or the florist in Claremont or the florist in Keene and how expensive they are. And what I try to nicely explain to them is, yes, we're less expensive here in the greenhouse, but that's because we're not a real business. We don't have to pay employees. That's what I have you guys for. We don't have to pay rent. We don't have to pay income taxes. We don't have to pay for health insurance. We don't have to do a lot of things. So because of that, in our greenhouse, we practice what's called community pricing. And so it's totally different than real retail pricing. We charge for our expenses, and we make a little bit of a profit. Not very much at all, just a little bit of a profit. This has been something that's come up especially with weddings. I've had to, over time, in order to be fair to our local community and the florists who work in our local community and are trying to earn a living and run a business, I've had to come up with a policy so that we don't undermine our local businesses. It's really important that, yes, we provide some services so that you guys here in the classroom can get some real working experience, but it's also really important that we support our local businesses and we're not so inexpensive that they aren't getting the business that they need, because everybody wants to go to the Fall Mountain Greenhouse so they can get really inexpensive flowers. That just wouldn't be correct. That's not ethically right, and it doesn't support our community. So what I've done over time with weddings is come up with a policy where the people we do weddings for have to have a direct connection to the program. They have to be a former student, or they have to be a person who has been a supporter of the program in a way that we can really articulate and state. And for those people, then we do our community pricing. We cover the expenses. You guys get a great experience, and then we add a 20% program fee. So that would be community pricing. So those are the 3 types of pricing that I wanted to mention to you. We've got the price point, we've got the design concept, and we've got community pricing. The regular markup for retail florist is 3 times. So when a regular retail florist gets their flowers in from a wholesaler, they mark those flowers up 3 times. That's called a 3 times markup. There are occasions where the markup might be even higher. At certain times of the year, say Mother's Day or wedding season or Valentine's Day season, the retailer might mark up even higher than 3 times. They might mark up 3 or 4 times. That could also be true if you lived in a very upscale area. If you lived in an urban area in a more wealthy community and rents were higher and people were willing to pay more money for their products, you might also charge a higher price. If your community can support that, then you can charge that. And these are the kinds of things that you get to know over time as you learn to work in your community. So labor is another thing that we're always going to factor in. Labor is free for me because I have you guys. But in a regular retail florist, they would add a 20% labor charge to every order that they made. As we start looking at these sheets that I sent home with you, what you'll see is that a florist has to charge for every single thing that's used in their arrangements in order to cover those expenses and make a profit. And then they also have to use labor. So I might pay my employees by the hour. My employees may be $15 an hour employees, but I charge 20% on top of the product price for everything my employees make. And that's part of how, as a retailer, I would earn some profits. That's not uncommon. Landscapers do kind of the same kind of thing. There are other industries that do the same thing. A landscape business owner might pay his worker $30 an hour as he's out doing landscape maintenance, but he might charge the customer $40 or $50 an hour, that the business owner is actually making money off the labor that's charged. So that's kind of the same thing in floral design. And as we look at the 2 different types of floral design pricing, we'll see how we add labor to maximize the profit in a retail shop. So that's how much labor is. It's 20%, and where you factor it in is really depending on what kind of pricing you're using and how you can maximize that 20% for your business. Okay. One more thing I want to do in this introduction is just go over the sheets a little bit so you can see what's going on here a little bit better. What you should see on the sheets, again, the first column is our flower common name. Then the second column is the botanical name. When you look in column D, that's the wholesale price. So when Springfield sends Fall Mountain some Protea, I'm looking at line 77, in column D, that's the wholesale price for Protea for me in the greenhouse. Column E says how many flowers per bunch that you're going to get. So if I'm getting that Protea, it's going to cost me $4.50, and I'm only going to get 1 stem. But you can see in the column E, that tells you some of them come in 10 stems, some come in 20 stems. This will make sense to you. It's like when we were doing our floral fan decks. Column G tells you how much one of those stems is. So when I look at row 91, and I'm looking at large sunflowers, I can see that the wholesale price for me was $6.50, and that I got 5 stems when I look in column E. And when I look in column G, that tells me that each one of those stems was $1.30 a piece. Now column H, the next column over, is my 3 times markup column. So that's your regular retail markup. I would recommend that you take these sheets and a highlighter and you highlight column H, so that when you're looking at your pricing sheets, as we go through some of these exercises and price the items, you can easily go to column H, because when we do the math and do our pricing exercises, we will always use the regular 3 times markup for pricing. So the other columns are different kinds of pricing. You can see J is 3.5 times markup. L is 4 times markup. But we won't use those. For our practices in our exercises, we'll always use the 3 times markup column. So that should be a helpful thing. Like I said, you could either draw a circle around it or use a highlighter on it, and it will help you focus on what number to use, what dollar figure to use as we do our pricing exercises. And we'll have fun with this, and you'll see just how expensive some of these things can get. I find these sheets to be really handy. What I'm going to do is I will take each one of these pricing types and we'll do some exercises on the smartboard. We'll do them one at a time so we can practice them together, and then I'll give you some assignments so you can work on them. Please ask me questions, send me texts or emails, or we can face chat or whatever. We can do Google Hangouts in order to make sure that this works, because it's a really good thing for you guys to learn. It'll be a very valuable skill for you to have. Okay, so that's enough for today. Go back. Hopefully you've been taking a few notes, and you can go back and answer the questions that you saw on the assignment. That'll help you stay on track, and it'll help me know that you're kind of understanding what's going on. Okay, great. Have a good afternoon, guys.